Good evening, YouTube. My name is Dan, and I'm the coach of your St. Louis Rampardos. Now, the St. Louis Rampardos had smashed our way to a nice narrow 3-0 victory over the Borussia Donphan and El Scizor Lars, and we were able to take first place of our division, having a better differential than the Donphans do. Now, we were able to kind of ride the back of V-Drive and rest Aggron Megatron, putting in quite a bit of work, and we have a very challenging opponent moving forward this week, the New Orleans Pelippers and P0kemen, who made the playoffs last season. We were able to defeat him in the playoffs, but he stood as our only loss in the regular season, where we went 9-1. Before we jump into the team breakdown here, I do ask that you guys take a moment to read the description. Go check out P0kemen's YouTube channel, as he just started the new channel. He had 10,000 subscribers. He started over from scratch to give you guys better content. He's a good friend of mine, so I'd really appreciate it if the aDrive army could go show him some love, give him some Rampardos love, and just give him a nice little boost on his new channel. That'd be great. But we are going to do the opposite. We are not going to show him any love this week in our match. We are going no mercy because we need to win this matchup. He is also 2-1, I believe, coming up with a big W over Shitty Penguin last week. I believe he picked up a narrow 1-0 victory. He's got a very impressive team. He's a very, very good battler. But the nice thing is, I know I have a chance to beat him, as I have beaten him in the past, just as he's beaten me in the past. So I go into this match with a lot of confidence, having beaten Lars last week. I really think we have an opportunity here to keep our momentum chugging forward, and this is a very big match. Every match is a big match, but this one, I really want to pull out a win here against a tremendous battler. So looking at his team, he's got a lot of different threats. Some of his bigger threats that I consider, first of all, is Mega Scizor, his first round pick. That thing is obviously a monster, carrying, priority, technician boosted bullet punches, U-turn for momentum. It's got a lot of things. The nice thing is I don't have to predict in terms of its item. I know it's Mega Scizor, which is a nice thing. Some other threats he has is Hydreigon, which I'm very familiar with. I'm expecting him to run, especially offensive Hydreigon, potentially Scarfed, maybe Life Orb, maybe he'll E-belt it and try to bluff a Scarf on the Hydreigon. Chandelure is also a big threat, as it covers the fire weakness from Mega Scizor, so I definitely expect to see Chandelure, and I think either Chandelure or Hydreigon are going to be his choice Scarf users, so you'll see I built my team factoring in that one of those two are going to be choice Scarfed, most likely. He does have a Raikou, he could potentially Scarf that, but I don't really see that being the case. He's a big fan of Raikou, so I wouldn't be surprised if he brought it. Reuniclus, huge problem, because this thing is one of those few things that can set up, has reliable recovery, and hits incredibly hard. Not to mention, status doesn't really affect it because of its Magic Guard ability. Reuniclus is a huge issue for a lot of teams, my team included. Florges there, big defensive wall, or special defensive wall from the fairy standpoint. Donphan is his rapid spinner, dedicated stealth rocker. His only other way to get rid of hazards is that Mega Scizor. He's got a Sock there. I don't really anticipate to see Sock in this match. Lantern, which actually does have some viability against my team, so don't be surprised if he brings Lantern this matchup. I did make some changes at the team in the last minute to account for Lantern being a possible bring. I just tweaked a few different moves to try to get better coverage to cover that Lantern if I need to. Virizion is also there, grass fighting type. I don't foresee Virizion coming to this matchup because I do have Aggron, which really can pretty much stop it. I have a couple other answers, and really Virizion just gives him another Victini fodder. Lastly, he's got Piloswine, so I really could see him bringing Piloswine instead of Donphan, as Piloswine does have a little bit more bulk on the special side. Either way, I'm prepared for both Piloswine and Donphan. I think I would actually prefer he brings Piloswine, just because even though I don't have knockoff, I do feel like I could wear it down. I don't have to worry about the sturdy. I have some other options. Either way, both Donphan and Piloswine do carry Ice Shards. That's something to keep in mind. I think he's going to bring one of the two. One of them will be a Stealth Rocker, obviously. If he brings the Donphan, which is pretty likely, he could bring it with, obviously, the the U-turn, or I'm sorry, the rapid spin, stealth rocks, potentially Ice Shard, and Earthquake. He could fit in Play Rough there if he wants something like that. So that's pretty much my analysis on his team breakdown. I definitely expect the Chandelure, the Hydreigon, the Mega Scizor. I really would be very surprised if he did not bring Reuniclus. I think Florges is a maybe, not a guarantee. Raikou's a maybe as well. Reuniclus I feel like is most likely to come. Lantern is one of those sleepers that I think could pop into this match here. But let's jump into my team and kind of what I prepared for, what I'm bringing, and we'll see how things go this week. Leading off our team is going to be our Megatron, our Mega Aggron again, putting a ton of work against Lars last week, having that rest set, which ended up being very, very beneficial. Unfortunately, this week we do not have any reliable recovery, but we are going to be carrying the Earthquake, the Heavy Slam, Fire Punch, which will give us Mega Scizor coverage. Obviously, the Heavy Slam has a chance to OHKO the Florges. Actually hits the Piloswine relatively hard. I cannot touch Donphan, unfortunately, with this Aggron set. But realistically, I wasn't going to hit the Donphan very hard anyway. And lastly, we have Stealth Rocks there as my hazard setter. I debated a lot between the composition of this team, and I felt that this Aggron was definitely going to be a staple. It was just a matter of how I was going to play with those moves. I felt like the EQ is there because I need to be able to hit the Chandelure if it switches in. Obviously, the Heavy Slam hits a couple different things hard, including the Florges. Gives me one more response to Florges, which otherwise could be problematic. And again, the Fire Punch is there for the Scissor. Also gives me coverage for Virizion if I need it, that kind of stuff. The EQ is also there for Lantern, because I know I can take the hits from Lantern, assuming I don't get Scald Burn. We got that nice EQ there. Next Pokemon we're going to be bringing is going to be our Sylveon, which is going to kind of kick off the tone for the rest of this team here. I've been pretty effective so far this season, surprisingly so, with a Choice Spec Sylveon, and that's what I've been bringing. I guess when I drafted, I didn't anticipate it to be so strong and have such wall-breaking potential, but it really does. There's not many things that resist Fairy, and it's going to do a lot of work to a lot of his team, but we're not bringing his specs this week. We are bringing max HP, max special attack, like we have been bringing, but we're actually carrying the Berry. So shout out to my man Nips for enlightening me to the power of berries, and I don't believe in using berries unless it's going to net you a surprise kill on something that otherwise would be a tough threat for your team to deal with. So Sylveon's carrying this Berry, and it serves two purposes. Purpose number one is giving that Hydreigon a full sense that a Flash Cannon will kill me, which it will not because of the Berry, which allows me to OHKO with Hyper Voice. So that's a potential scenario number one. And scenario number two is the Scissor comes in, goes for Bullet Punch or Iron Head. The Berry allows us to sponge that hit and fire off an HP Fire and OHKO the Mega Scissor. So we have a couple different options with that. We're also carrying the Shadow Ball to cover the Chandelure. And lastly, we have Baton Pass, which is a pretty big staple on a lot of my evolution type sets because I really like to gain momentum. And I think the fact that we could potentially be buffing either a Scarf or potentially even a Specs, really, or maybe an E-Belt or a Pixie Plate. We have a lot of different things that we're going to bluff. I don't think Berry will be on the front of his mind, and hopefully, I mean, you're never going to really plan for someone to carry something so specifically like a Berry, but I really feel like this week it could come in quite a bit of handy. We lose a little bit of power there, obviously, on the Hyper Voice without the Specs, but we're going to be able to put a lot of work in with this Sylveon regardless, I believe. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our Captain, Victini, picking up 2 kills last week, holding on with 1 HP after the Stealth Rock switch-ins. Stealth Rocks typically don't hurt my team too badly, but this week it's going to be vital to keep them off the field. We're bringing a Scarf Victini again. I had toyed around with the Scarfers, potentially Scarf Heracross, Scarf Victini, Scarf Mence, even Scarf Jolteon, and I really wanted to make sure that my Scarfer was going to outpace a Scarf Hydreigon if need be, and that's what Victini does. I have just enough speed investment to outspeed a Scarf Hydreigon, carrying the hasty nature, so we actually are a mixed Victini in a way. We're carrying max special attack, mostly speed and a little bit of attack investment, so our V-Creates actually hit pretty hard despite the fact that I'm not invested in attack as much as I otherwise would be. U-turns there to hit things like the Hydreigon just to pivot. Shadow Ball hits a lot of different things. It hits the Chandelure, it also hits a lot of different things for neutral, and it gives me another thing to hit that Reuniclus, which could be very nice, especially if for some reason he decides to not carry Shadow Ball on his Reuniclus, which I'm sure he will, but it's just something to keep in mind. And I originally had Dazzling Gleam on my Victini here, which was able to hit the Hydreigon and actually OHKO the Hydreigon, but I felt that the U-turn was going to be sufficient as it does about 50%, and I felt that I needed Trick on Victini as another failsafe for Reuniclus that could potentially set up on us. I would like to have Dazzling Gleam for another specially offensive move, but that's really only going to hit Hydreigon, and I really felt it necessary to carry Trick to give myself, again, one more emergency to cover the Reuniclus if need be, because otherwise, if that Reuniclus starts to set up on me, if I can't break, if I can't break its sub, if it has a sub, which I don't think it's going to run sub, it's going to run probably, if it's a setup set, it'll be Calm Mind, Recover, Psyshock or Psychic, and then Shadow Ball likely, so you shouldn't be able to fit sub onto there, but I had to make sure I can kind of cripple the Reuniclus by tricking a potential Scarf to it, which will basically make it useless, so to kind of keep it from setting up on us any further. The next Pokemon I think actually could be the MVP, as it was against Gym Leader Geo. We have our Blastoise here, which is carrying a especially defensive Blastoise. Allows me to take hits from that Chandelure. Even if he goes for Energy Ball, I can actually take the Energy Ball relatively well. It is not a 2-hit KO unless I think he's Specs. But again, I'm expecting him to potentially be a subset. Could be a Scarf set. He's got a lot of versatility with that Chandelure. But I'm carrying Scald, Protect, Toxic Rapid Spin, Max Special Defense with lefties. Toxic Stalling is definitely a strategy I plan on employing, especially if he does not bring his Florges. If he does not have the Aromatherapy user, it's going to be very important for me to fire those Toxic off, as he really doesn't have anything that can take a Toxic aside from maybe the Reuniclus, which he could be fearing my Roar as well, so he's probably not going to want to set up in front of Blastoise's face, even though I don't have Roar. I think Blastoise is probably our most likely lead to kind of counteract that Donphan, and the fact that it can spin and get rocks off the field is really nice. The Protect increases its longevity through just being able to live, get more leftovers recovery and stuff. I really think Blastoise can put in a ton of work this week. It's going to matter of how well it matches up against that Chandelure, but those Scalds are going to do a lot, as if he does not bring his Lantern, he doesn't have a really reliable switch into Scald because of the potential burn. We're bringing a very interesting set coming up here. It's going to be our Earhart, our Salamence, who almost set up and swept against Miguel in week 1, but we're bringing it back here for week 4. We're carrying a Hasty Nature again with the Life Orb, and this is a very interesting Salamence set. It's a wall-breaking Salamence, carrying the Earthquake, the Iron Tail, Draco Meteor, and Flamethrower. Now we have all of our investment in speed to make sure we outpace Hydreigon if it's not Scarfed, and then we have max special attack. We actually don't have any physical attack investment, but that max special attack investment is going to enhance our power with our Flamethrower to Oko the Scissor. It's going to give us a harder hitting Draco Meteor as well. We have the Iron Tail there, which does 2-hit KO the Florges. Potentially Oko it depending on his spread after rocks, and we also have the Earthquake there, which is going to give us the Lantern coverage that we need, as we do obviously outspeed it. It does hit the Chandelure and Oko Chandelure, so we can fire off a Draco and then fire off an Earthquake, and I think that could be very beneficial. We are carrying Intimidate this week as well, as opposed to Moxie, because I don't feel that that Moxie boost is going to be that useful for us in step 1. And step 2, I think the Intimidate could potentially mess with John a little bit and make him kind of rethink about what kind of Salamence I'm actually bringing. Once he sees a Life Orb, it'll be a little bit more revealed, but that also allows me to take something like an Ice Shard or a Bullet Punch better if I do get that Intimidate drop prior to going for my attack. So all that stuff is very, very well calculated. Like I said, we're running max special attack, 244 on speed, and then 4 in HP defense and special defense, so we maximize our Stealth Rock switch-ins. And last but not least, we're actually bringing a very unique set this week with our Jolteon Tesla making an appearance this week, carrying just enough speed with a Modest Nature to outspeed Hydreigon, which sounds really weird because I'm not focusing on outpacing his Raikou. I'm not going to try to outpace his Virizion. My only focus is to outspeed that Hydreigon, and if his Raikou does outspeed me, that's fine, but I actually was able to put a little bit into bulk and put full special attack investment on this thing with a Modest Nature, carrying the Volt Switch, Signal Beam, which hits the Hydreigon, super effective, Shadow Ball, which is going to hit the Chandelure, obviously, very nicely, and HP Ice, which hits the Donphan as a 2-hit KO, assuming he's not AV Donphan. Which would make no sense because he's going to have a Stealth Rock user. I really like this Jolteon set, and similar to the Sylveon with the Berry, I think this Jolteon is going to be able to take a surprise hit from something like a Chandelure's Fire Blast, hit it with a Shadow Ball, and knock it out after Stealth Rocks. I think we have an 85% chance to Oko it after Rocks. You know, Jolteon, I think, could put in a lot of work and pick up one of those surprise kills. Again, if he does not bring Lantern, Jolteon has a better field day. A little bit worried about Donphan, but we're going to have to make some predictions regardless, and see if we can use Jolteon to kind of give us the momentum we need. And again, I'm not worried about outpacing Raikou, because 1, I'm not going to do too much to Raikou. 2, he's not going to do much to me. I'm AV, so worst case scenario, he tries to like set up on me or something like that. But again, I have Victini, which does outpace it. I can V-create the Raikou and Oko it. I have a lot of different options there, so I'm less concerned about that. But we have a very, very big matchup here. I'm very excited for this match. I think John, again, is a phenomenal battler, and we spent a lot of time this week in the Rampardos front office preparing for this matchup, realizing the implications of this week 4 matchup. Moving to 3-1 sounds a heck of a lot better than 2-2, so we're gonna really put you know, everything on the table here and try to come out with a W. So that is gonna be it, guys. I really appreciate your support this week. Head smashing our opponents. Don't forget, shirts are still available in the description below if you want to grab one before the holiday season comes up. And that's gonna be it for me, guys. My name is Dan. I'm the coach of your St. Louis Rampardos, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.